Hi, I'm Midge Shoemaker, and today is day 40 of my making 100 days of YouTube videos and focusing on gratitude. So, yay for day 40. That means I'm 2/5 of the way done. I'm a math person, so I was like, yay, that means something. It's a fraction of some kind. Only 3/5 to go. Only 60 more days to go. Um, Not that I'm going to stop doing all of this after my 100 days, but looking forward to getting through 100 days and feeling, in the middle where it's a little bit harder and not wanting to give up. It's not as easy as like in the beginning, it's not as exciting. But today, I actually have a lot of things that I want to talk about or discuss. I've been trying to process a lot of things. And for me, I need to understand why I think a certain way, why I feel a certain way, why I react a certain way. And I've been triggered by some things this past week and been trying to figure them out. And I had a counseling appointment this morning, and that helped a little bit, brought up some things. But I don't know. My counselor at the end said something to me, and I didn't feel like that was the right trigger. Because she was saying I had some kind of trigger around being a people pleaser and that I need to give part of myself and I need to do service, for other people. And I just, not that those are bad things, but it just felt like that was not what my problem was. So, and I know I'm not perfect. I'm not going to say I'm perfect. But I think for me, I've spent the majority of my life putting other people first and not taking care of myself and not realizing that I wasn't actually helping other people because I hadn't helped myself. And I couldn't see myself clearly, so I didn't believe other people that said nice things about me. And I believed people that said bad things about me or that mistreated me. And I felt like I deserved it. And if someone wasn't mistreating me, then I mistreated myself because I felt like I was a bad person. So, I've spent a lot of my life feeling negative and not feeling like I was good enough. And I think that's one of my triggers that I'm dealing with, one of those things that have been triggered. That's an underlying trigger for most of my life, is that I'm not good enough. But I think a lot of that came from when I was growing up and having what I did redone or fixed or changed by someone else. And that was frustrating to me because it made me feel like what I did wasn't good enough. So I'm like, I did something and I'm like, yay, I'm all proud of this. And then it was like, yeah, but this and this and this and this, and we'll change it. And Janice, my biological mom, I know she wasn't trying to be hurtful or disrespectful or anything like that, but I remember being in a creative writing class in elementary school or having a creative writing assignment, and I kind of wrote a story and she decided to type it up for me, which was nice. But I wasn't very good at grammar. I was like in 5th or 6th grade. I don't know how many kids are that great at grammar. Not me. That wasn't my forte. So she rewrote it. She reworded it. And in junior high, when I had to write a story for an English class, I remember just standing there and kind of dictating to her what I thought my story would be about. And then she would just type it up and fill in all the blanks. And then it was like my idea, but it was her work. And I felt like I had to ask her to do it because I didn't feel like my work was good enough. And not that she ever said my work wasn't good enough. I'm not saying that by any means. It's just how I felt. It's how I interpreted things. And I think oftentimes as a child or as an individual myself, I misinterpret things to myself, being abused or things that I didn't do. Like I got punished a lot. And I didn't know what I was being punished for. It was like I was just supposed to know. I remember Daryl, my biological dad, would line us all up and just spank all of us or something. And it was like, well, I don't know what we were getting spanked for. I had no idea what the punishment was for. So I got that impression that I was supposed to be a mind reader. I was just supposed to know, and I was just supposed to do it right. And I remember doing dishes or something, and I wasn't doing it fast enough, and he was impatient, so he just shoved me out of the way so he could finish doing the job because I wasn't fast enough. I wasn't good enough. And so I started to believe that I wasn't fast enough or good enough. And if I couldn't do it perfectly the first time, I would get in trouble for it. So then I just didn't do it. I just gave up. I just quit. Or I would ask someone else to do it for me because, it made Janice feel good when I asked her to write my stories for me. And then she could type it up and then it would be good. It would be good enough because I wasn't the one that did it. So then it would be my idea, but she could do the work and then she could be proud of it and then I couldn't get in trouble for it. So I think I still do that as an adult where I want someone else to do the work for me, even though I'm capable of doing it myself because I'm afraid that what I'm doing isn't good enough. And so I have this underlying trigger or fear of not being good enough. And so when people tell me, what I need to do to fix things, I feel like what I did wasn't good enough. And I've had a friend who's been trying to help, but he keeps telling me what to do to fix things. And I'm like, I didn't know it was broken or that it needed to be fixed. And I didn't realize why it bothered me so much until today, because it feels like when he's telling me to do more things, that what I'm doing isn't enough. What I'm doing isn't good enough. And that's a trigger for me. And I'm trying to feel like what I'm doing is enough and that I am good enough and that God has blessed me with these gifts and these talents and he is teaching me how to share them with the world. And I have to develop them and they're not going to be perfect. And I know that I need outside help to become better at it. I know I need to have my work critiqued and shared. So that's the scary part, is sending it out to people and the waiting part, anticipating, because I want to know what people think of my book and I'm hoping they like it. I'm hoping I didn't totally screw it up and that I don't have to totally rewrite the whole thing. And I don't want to give up on myself or my talents. And so I'm hoping that it's good enough. And to me, I'm like, okay, it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be good enough at some point to publish. I'm going to make sure it gets edited. I'm going to rewrite it, but I can't do it to please everyone else. I don't have that capability. I can't make everybody in the entire world happy. So yes, I think, when I was complaining to my counselor about that this morning, and she was like, oh, you have issues with being a people pleaser because you need to please some people. And I was like, okay, granted, I'm writing a book to readers, but I'm like, the first book I wrote, I just wrote for myself. I just wrote to finish writing a book, to say that I wrote a book. And I wrote a book. And there's very few people that would probably ever read the book that I wrote because it wasn't written to the reader. And as I go back and try to read some of it now, some of it's a little bit confusing. Some of it I still think is really good. And, I've got some nice description things in there that I think are cool, but it was, my first attempt at writing a book, and it's really hard to rewrite it because I have to let go of what I did originally, which I was proud of. I'm still proud of. And no, it's not good. It's not written for readers. It's not written for other people to understand it. And I know that I'm not very good at communicating. So writing The Malaya and the Teachers of Powers, this new book that I'm sending out, is the first book that I've learned how to write to readers. So it's my way of communicating my story to someone else. And yes, I want my story to be comprehensive to the people that read it. I want them to understand the point of my story. I want them to connect with my characters. I want to put that out there. So yes, to some extent, that means I am trying to please other people. But I also feel like it's a way for me to communicate and, in some small way, do like a service to share something with other people. So there's that. So like, I know I have to at some point put that out there, but I also know that it's not going to make everybody happy. And the goal isn't to make everybody happy. So I realized that my goal or my purpose behind doing these YouTube videos and writing these books is, one, I just like writing and I have all these ideas, these stories in my head anyway. So it's good to put them down in writing because it takes something that I used as a way to run away from reality and life, a safe place in my mind when I couldn't be safe, it didn't feel safe in the environment around me, I could feel safe in my mind. I could just run away from whatever was going on around me, block out the world, and create a story in my head. And I have done that tons of times. I've done that at workplaces, I've done it at home, I've done it at school, because the story in my head is always better. So, I can look like I'm paying attention, or maybe I don't look like I'm paying attention because my mind is somewhere else, not on the conversation. It's not in the present moment. So learning to be in the present moment is difficult for me. And then figuring out what to do with all of these stories is, the idea of writing them down is scary because I don't feel like my writing is good enough. But I feel like I've done a lot of work on my writing, that I've made a lot of progress, that I've learned how to better communicate my stories to other people. And I'm grateful for that. And I realized that in writing Linoy and the Teachers of Powers, it was a learning thing. It was for me to learn how to communicate, how to write to readers. And it's also practice. And it's kind of like building blocks for me. Like I have to start small and work my way up, because I have later stories that I want to write about. And in all honesty, I have a later story, and the character is based, on my life. It's I guess like a metaphor. I don't know if it's metaphor is the right word for it. I think it's a metaphor of my life, and maybe an exaggeration of, events in my life. But it has all of the emotions of my life. The character that has to go through all these different trials, they relate to all of the emotions and feelings that I have. So in my head, that's me that will be writing about, and that's scary to just put me out there. So being able to put Linoy and the Teachers of Powers out, which is not something that's been spinning in my head for years, is a little bit easier. It's a little bit safer, and it will help me to gauge an idea as to, if people like my writing or don't like my writing. And, it occurs to me with doing these YouTube videos that I'm actually very grateful that there's only a handful of people that are watching these. I think I've only got 1 or 2 views on most of the long ones. Maybe I think the most is like 14 for my gratitude ones, which is great. And I only have like 9 followers, which is fine, because I think if I was instantly famous overnight, or if I had like 1,000 followers or something, I would freak out. I would be freaking out. And I think when I first started making these videos, I was worried that like 1,000 people were going to be watching me, and I was freaking out. So I feel much better knowing that there's only a handful of people watching me. So no, I'm not making these YouTube videos with the intent of making money. Yeah, sure, maybe someday if I make money off of these, that would be great. But if not, that's okay. I'm doing these so that I can develop a talent, so that I can develop the ability to speak calmly and clearly, to learn how to express myself verbally, which I'm not very good at. And I certainly don't do very well with conversations because my brain just shuts down. I've been in too many of those growing up, and the wrong answer is not good because there's a violent reaction to that. So it's just shut down. That is the reaction. Shut down, just wait for it to be over and then move on. So my brain just freezes and I shut down, and then I start thinking about it later, and then I have to figure out, well, what was my trigger? Why am I upset? And do I have a right to be upset? Was the person right? Was the person wrong? And then, of course, it's kind of too late to go back to the person and say anything, and most of the time I'm too scared to go back to the person and say anything. So if I ever get in a relationship again or whatever, that person is going to have to be very patient with me and very understanding that I don't process things immediately, and that I will have to bring things up that have happened in the past to work through them, because I can't work through them in the moment. And I don't know if that's something that I will ever be able to do. And I'm okay with that, but I know that that's frustrating for other people. So I feel bad for whoever it is that I end up with, if I end up with someone, because I don't process things immediately. And sometimes it takes me 2 or 3 days to figure out what it is. And a lot of times as an adult now, it's usually me, but it's also usually a trigger from something that happened to me growing up. So I am having to learn how to do that. But I'm grateful for this platform. I'm grateful for this learning process, because that's what this is for me. This is an opportunity for me to learn, for me to grow, for me to develop the habit of making a video every single day, to focus on gratitude, to be able to change my thought processes, to be able to realize that I am good enough, that I am doing enough, that this is fine, that I don't need to reach 1,000,000 people or 1,000 people or whatever it is, because I'm not ready to do that. And maybe someday I will, and maybe someday that will be great. And maybe I won't. I don't know what God has in store for me. I just know that He's blessing me to be able to do these things here and now. And this is enough, and I'm enough, and this is good enough. And it's not perfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm grateful that it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm grateful that I can do this to learn and to develop my talents, to do that whole little building blocks thing, line upon line, and figure out what does and doesn't work for me. And it's not to please other people. It's because I'm selfish. It's because I want to develop talents for myself, because I feel like God wants me to do this, to challenge myself. And I have learned that if I listen to those promptings and do them, then I get blessings. So that's why I say I'm selfish, because I do it because I want the blessings. I want the rewards that are going to come from doing all of this. I don't really know what the reward is going to be at the end of all of this, but I think it's going to be, right now, it feels like it's going to be learning to love myself more, learning to accept myself more, to see myself the way that God sees me, as a beautiful daughter, as a talented person. And I also feel like in some way, or hope that in some way, that what I am saying resonates with other people, to maybe help you understand what you're going through, or that you've been through something similar and you can relate. And maybe if that's the case, or you know someone that's struggling with this, you can share it with someone else, and you can help them see that they're not alone. And so I hope in some way that this actually does help other people. So I'm not entirely doing this just for me, but I have no idea who this is going to reach or when this is going to reach people, because I also know when I started the whole YouTube thing that they talk about it taking 1 year to 1.5 years for people to like get your views or to go viral or whatever that is. So something that I do now, someone might be watching 1 year or 2 years or 5 years from now. And so who knows what's going to happen with these videos? Or maybe the 2 or 3 people that watch my videos now are the only people that will ever watch my videos. I don't know. But that to me doesn't really matter, because I feel like I'm doing what God wants me to do. So my purpose behind this is selfish. It's for me. It's to follow a prompting. It's to develop my talents. It's to get myself in the habit of doing things, to develop better habits, to focus on more positive things, to figure out what's going on with me, to deal with my triggers, to remind myself that I am good enough. And also to remind myself that I don't have to be a mind reader. That was another one of my triggers, is being told that I should have known what to do. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I remember my ex being upset with me because apparently I did something that my stepson didn't like. And I'm like, okay, well, what did I do? He's like, you know what you did. I don't know what I did. What did I do? And he's like, you know what you did. I have no idea. And I remember growing up, and my sisters and I would joke about the mind reader class 101, like mind reader 101. And I'm like, and I failed that class. And I joked about failing that class as a kid, but I still felt like growing up that I was just supposed to know what needed to be done, So when I was married, before I got divorced, my ex was just like, well, look around and see what needs to be done and do it. Like, okay, but I have no idea what he wanted me to do. And then I would do what I thought needed to be done. And then he wasn't happy. And I was like, okay, what did you want me to do? He was like, well, you should know what I want you to do. I failed Mind Reader 101. I am not a mind reader. I will never be a mind reader. I have tried that my entire life with the whole people-pleasing thing, trying to guess what other people want me to do or want me to be, trying to be the chameleon, and never knowing what I liked or didn't like, and always hated when I met new people. And they're like, so what do you like to do? And I would freeze. And I'd be like, what do you like to do? And they're like, oh, I like to do this and this and this. I'm like, okay, I like to do all of that too. I have no idea what that is, but I like to do that too, because I'm the chameleon. I will do what anybody else wants to do. Even if I don't like it, I'm like, okay, I don't really like that, but I don't want to be alone. So I want to go with other people so that I can fit in, feel like I belong. And instead, I just felt uncomfortable the entire time because I didn't fit in and I didn't know what to say. And I didn't enjoy myself because and there were some things I did that I did enjoy, and I was like, oh, this is cool, I like this. But I didn't know I liked it until I tried it, and then I was afraid to say if I did or didn't like it, or if everybody else liked it, then I liked it too. If they liked the movie, I liked the movie. If they liked the game, I liked the game. And it's really sad because I didn't really know if I did or not. It reminds me of that movie, The Runaway Bride, and she ran away at the altar for every wedding because she'd get up there and realize that the guy she was marrying had no idea who she was because she did everything he did. And then when it got to the guy that she was really in love with and he knew who she was, she still ran away because she didn't know who she was, and she had to figure out who she was before she could get in the relationship. So I'm figuring out who I am so that hopefully someday I can have another relationship, get married again. That would be nice, hopefully to someone much better than my ex, or at least better for me than my ex. But of someone that appreciates who I am, that knows who I am, that accepts my crazy, quirky stuff, that accepts the fact that I don't process things immediately, but also, someone I feel comfortable being myself with and being honest and saying, I like this, I don't like this, and that it's okay, that they're not going to stop loving me because I don't like the same things that they do. And that is something that I always felt like growing up, that if I didn't like the same things other people did, that I wasn't loved, or if I wanted to do something different and nobody else wanted to do it, then I wasn't allowed to do it because nobody else would do it, or I wouldn't like it, and all the reasons why I wouldn't like it. And so I just didn't feel like I was allowed to discover who I was, and because I had to do what everybody else did. I had to be the people pleaser. So, yes, it's nice to make other people happy. It's nice to do service for other people. And I like to be able to do that. I like to be able to talk with other people. I hope that in some form this is a service in helping other people. But this is a way for me to express who I am, to be myself, to share who I am. And my writing is the same thing. Like, I can write things and it expresses who I am. It's sharing who I am. And it's scary to put it out in the world. It's scary to share it with other people because there is that fear of rejection. And there's that fear that if they reject my writing, that they're rejecting me. And I know that's not necessarily true because we don't have to like the same things. So I'd like to be in a relationship where we don't necessarily like the same things, but we appreciate the fact that the other person likes different things and we're willing to do things for the other person even if we don't like them, but they're aware that we're just doing it because we care about them and not because we actually like it or because I actually like it. And I would like to have that kind of open, honest relationship someday. And that's why I'm trying to work on myself, to figure out who I am, to figure out how not to get lost in a relationship. But I know there's always constant development and change and things like that. I just don't want to feel pressured into thinking that I have to be a people pleaser. And maybe my definition is different than my counselor's definition because, obviously in a marriage situation or family situation, it's good to do service for other people. It's good to make other people happy. And I like to do that. I like to make things and give them to other people because I like to see the expressions on their face. I like to see them happy. I like to, pick out just the perfect gifts at Christmas time for friends and family to see, to show how much I know them and what they like. And I used to be really good at that, and I haven't because I haven't stayed in touch and in tune. But nobody ever knew what to get me, and I never knew what to tell people to get me because I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what I needed because the whole rest of the year, nobody ever focused on me except maybe my birthday and Christmas. And even for my birthday, it wasn't about presents. We didn't get presents. We got to pick out our favorite dinner and our favorite cake and our favorite ice cream. And that was it. And every 4 years we got a party. And then after that, I think after we were 12 or 16, we were on our own. If we wanted a party, we had to throw it ourselves. So I didn't have a lot of, focus on me and what I like and what I want or things like that. And, and one of my grandmothers always sent me the same thing as my older sister. And because we didn't see them very often. I had cousins that were our age that lived near my grandma, so she'd send us the same thing she got them, because she figured that's what we wanted because we're all girls. So I'm like, okay, but it isn't necessarily always what I wanted. But it never occurred to me that I can ask for something different, because I wasn't taught to do that, or I was, taught that if no one else liked it, that I didn't get to do it. So I couldn't have something. I felt like I couldn't have something different. Not that I couldn't, I just felt like I wasn't allowed to. I had to conform and do. And so trying to not do that doesn't mean that I don't care about other people or their feelings. It just means that I'm caring about myself first and my feelings first. And I'm not trying to intentionally hurt other people. I'm trying to be careful, because if I don't like getting hurt, or I don't like how someone approaches me, I don't want to do the same to other people. That's, I'm trying to do that whole golden rule, do unto others as you would do unto yourself. But I need to know what I would do unto myself. I need to know what I like, so that I can figure out how to do for other people, and realize that other people don't think or feel the same way that I do. And again, I'm not a mind reader, so I have no idea what they're thinking or feeling, or what I'm saying or doing is offensive or not, which is the whole point of communication. And I never learned how to communicate. I learned how to shut down and go with the flow and pretend that everything was okay. So it's really hard at my age to learn how to communicate, to learn when it's okay to speak up and when it's not, and when it's better to just bite my tongue and ride out the tide, or whatever it is. So I'm still learning these things, and it's a learning process, and I'm grateful that it's a learning process for me. And I'm grateful that I can work on this process. And I'm feeling like there's something else that I wanted to talk about, because I do the videos, the learning, the things that I'm grateful for, not being good enough. I already just forgot what I just said. The whole not being a mind reader. And then the last one was work can be fun. There we go. Because when I was growing up, I would get in trouble for playing games, making games out of work. But I had a very active imagination growing up, and I think so did my siblings. So we were always imagining different things, and, making my older sister the evil witch, and she would come and check on us while we were doing our chores. And if it wasn't done, then we'd get some kind of punishment, water in the face or something, something fun or entertaining, or, we'd create different things. And I remember making socks with my brother and just throwing the sock at him, like, oh, you have that one, here's this, and throw it at him. And so it was fun. But Daryl would get mad at us, and he would come in and yell and scream, like, you're laughing. And it's like, well, we're making socks. Like, no, you can't be having fun if you're working. Working is not fun. If you're laughing, you're not working. And so I was like, I think every job that I've had has always been something mundane or boring. And I was like, I do it for a while, but I can't do it for long periods of time, which is why I think I bounced around to so many different jobs, because I can't do it. And when I went to school, I wanted a degree in something fun, because I wanted to have some fun in my life. And maybe that's why I have a hard time doing work and house chores and things like that, because I always tried to make it fun, make a game out of it. And I was always told that was wrong, or I got in trouble for it. So I have to remember that I can make fun. I can have fun, skate around on the floor to mop it, get little wet rags or towels and just skate around on a wet floor to mop it. It's much more fun than using a mop. And that's okay. It's fun, and the job still gets done. So I need to remember that I can have fun, that I'm allowed to have fun, that God wants me to be happy, and He wants me to enjoy this life that He's given me. It's a gift, and it's something to be enjoyed. And yes, there's chores, there's things that have to be done on a daily basis, but it doesn't have to be boring. It can be fun. It can be turned into a game. And I want to be able to enjoy that, and to remember that childlike part of me that had fun doing that. I like, having a job that I go to that I enjoy doing for the most part. I mean, there's always something that's not happy. There's always someone that's going to get on my nerves. There's never, 100% perfect anything anywhere. And people are human. I'm very human. I'm very imperfect. So, of course, and there's personalities that clash and stuff like that. So nothing is perfect. And it's not going to be, roses and flowers all of the time. And even with all of this gratitude stuff, I thought I was going to be happy all the time for doing this. And instead, it's like, I'm having all of these triggers and all of these things where I have to change my thought processes. But the gratitude is what's showing me the option that there's another way to think, that there's another way to react, another way to respond, to realize that work can be fun and it doesn't have to be this drudgery that I make it. Because when I was growing up and I tried to make it fun, I was told it had to be drudgery. And then I didn't want to do it because it was drudgery and it was boring. And Janice would always be like, if you're bored, I'll give you some work to do. And I was like, yay, that solves my boredom because I'm not allowed to play while I work. So how does that fix anything? So then I would, again, create stories in my head because I could play games in my head and I could play while I was working in my head. I didn't actually do it in reality because I wasn't allowed to. So I have some interesting stories in my head because they're based off of what I was feeling, a lot of traumatic things, some of them, and some playful things, some things that, kind of break it up that are entertaining, that are fun. I'm looking forward to writing one of those stories. It's actually more fun, lively. It's not about me, it's about someone else, but that's more fun. Anyway, because I always felt like I was boring and that my life was boring, that I didn't know what I liked or what to do, and that nobody would like me because I'm boring, and maybe that's why nobody loved me or liked me. And that's not it at all. I just had unhealthy parents that didn't know how to communicate, that didn't know how to process things, and they didn't know how to, I don't think they knew how to take care of themselves, so they didn't know how to take care of me or how to teach me how to take care of myself. And they put a lot of responsibility on me to be more grown up and adult than I actually was, and making me responsible for my siblings and for their actions and for everyone's happiness. And I didn't even know how to take care of my own happiness. So, and I know they did the best that they could, and that's okay. And I know that it's made me who I am today. And I know that I have a lot of things to learn and to process, and that I'm not necessarily better than them. I also know that I have more support than they had. I have 12-step programs that I can go to, and I have counseling. And I remember Janice trying to get counseling after my parents got divorced, and it was not very good. We did not find a very good counselor, and it did not work for us. And she did not have a lot of support because at that time and where we grew up, people were like, getting divorced was taboo, and all of a sudden, like, we were horrible people because my mom got divorced, and she was like shunned, like she was a leper or something. And it wasn't just her, it was me and all of my siblings. We all became leprous to the whole world, or not to the whole world, but to everybody at church and, even some people at school. So it was kind of like my whole world got turned upside down, and I was no longer welcome or accepted because my parents were divorced. And I'm grateful that the world is not the same today, that that's not how it is. But that's how I felt like it was going to be when I got divorced. And I treated myself that way, like I was a leper, and I shunned everyone else because why would they want to have anything to do with me because now I'm divorced? And people didn't respond that way to me. They reached out to me and they loved me and they cared for me. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the reminder that God loves me. And I'm grateful for the testimony that my mom had, that the church was true, that God still loved her and loved each of us, regardless of how we were being treated. And she never lost that faith or that testimony. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for her example. But at the same time, I know she didn't get the help she needed to take care of herself. So she didn't give me the love and support that I felt like I needed. And instead of seeing it as a child, instead of seeing it that she just didn't have the help that she needed, I felt like she didn't love me, and I felt like I wasn't good enough. So again, I internalized things incorrectly. And as hard as it was to go through my own divorce and for the things that I've been through, it's given me insight into what she went through and given me an appreciation for her that I didn't have growing up. So I'm very grateful for that insight. I'm very grateful for the things that I can learn through all of these really hard things that really suck. And I'm really sorry, I'm getting very emotional. I wasn't planning on doing that. But I'm grateful that I'm learning it's okay to cry and it's okay to have feelings, and that I can process all of these things and to realized that not everything that I believed growing up was true, and that I just maybe internalized things incorrectly, and that's not what it was meant to be. And realizing that I'm, one of 5 children is not easy. And so for a single parent, when it came to doing things, it was just easier to have everybody do all the same things. And if I was the only one that wanted to do something different, then I was the one that got to sacrifice for everybody else, and not the other way around. So, and it's good to sacrifice and to give for other people, but it helps if I'm willing to do it, I feel better about doing it, or if I understand the reason behind doing it, then again, I feel better about doing it. Sorry, like, all these teary eyes. Really wasn't expecting to cry. I'm sorry. I guess that's what I get for just putting myself out there and just letting myself learn how to feel and to share, and sharing very emotional things that I'm learning. But I'm grateful for the things that I'm learning. I'm grateful for the insights and understanding that it's given me, and realizing that, at different times in my life, I perceive things differently. And sometimes my view of things and situations can be distorted, and I don't see it clearly because I see it from my own understanding. And if there's not someone there that I felt safe talking to, or that could explain it to me in a way that I understood, then I perpetrated that misperception throughout my life, that I wasn't good enough, which was never the case, or that I wasn't loved, which again wasn't the case, or that I couldn't like things that were different from other people, which is also not true. So I'm having to relearn these thought processes, and I feel like there's still default settings in my brain that I automatically go to. And right now, I think because I'm trying to change those default settings, I'm trying to say that I feel different or better, that I think it's a trigger for me when other people say or do stuff that reminds me or feels like I'm being treated like I'm not good enough, or like I have to be a mind reader and I'm not, or like I can't have fun with my work. So I think those are things that are triggers for me, because I'm trying to retrain my brain and saying I can do all of these things. And then someone else comes along and says something that makes me feel like they're saying I can't be happy doing work, that I can't, that I have to be a mind reader and I'm not, and that I'm wrong if I can't read their mind, or I didn't do it the way they imagined it would be done, because again, not a mind reader, and I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for me. I'm writing my books for me, so that I can write them, so that I can share them, so that I can work through all of this stuff, so I can, put myself out there and realize that I'm safe, that I'm okay as a person, that I have the talent and ability to write. And maybe I won't get a whole bunch of followers. Maybe I won't end up with a whole bunch of people reading my books, other than the handful of people that are watching these videos. But at least I will have finished something. I will have done something. I will have put it out in the world and been like, this is who I am. And honestly, if I only have like 10 people that are happy about that, or that read my books, I think it's okay, because I can handle being in a group of 10 people. I mean, I don't do well in groups. I do one-on-one. So I don't know that I would believe or could handle, 100 or 1,000 people liking my writing. I would probably freak out a lot. So I think that's another reason I'm going through this process, so that I can be comfortable in who I am and accept that I'm good enough, and that what I'm doing is good, and that so that when other people do read my work and do tell me that it's good, that I'll believe them. Because I've learned that if I don't believe it about myself, I don't believe it when other people tell me. So it doesn't matter how many people tell me how good or wonderful I am. When I don't believe it about myself, I think they're all liars. I think they're all crazy. I think that they're all delusional, because they have no idea how crazy or messed up I am. And I'm starting to realize that they know exactly how crazy and messed up I am, and they love me, and they think I'm quirky and funny, and they enjoy being around me, and they like doing some of the same things that I do, and they relate because they've been through similar situations. And it's like, oh, wait, this is okay, and I'm okay, and people really do love me, and I really do love other people, and I really can accept their love, and I really can accept God's love, because He made me this way, and He loves me this way. This is how I was designed, and I just need to see it as a beautiful design. And I'm working on that, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the insights that I have, grateful for the things that I'm learning and discovering, grateful that I can see a different way to think, grateful to see some of the distorted thinking so that I can start to change it so that those things no longer hold me back from moving forward and making progress. So I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for everyone that's been willing to listen to me, or even that chooses to watch this really long rambling with all of these things that I've been figuring out today, and just grateful for all the things that I figured out. And if you like this, please like, subscribe. If you know someone that you think this could benefit from hearing this, please share it with them. Let them see that it's okay to cry and to be human and to be triggered and to work through it and to not have to overreact to everything. I'm still working on the not overreacting to everything, but at least I'm not throwing it in other people's faces because I have to process it first, so I'm just doing it silently. And then if I realize it has nothing to do with them, then they never have to know that I freaked out. And if there is something I have to say, then it's that awkward conversation later, 2-3 days later, like, you bugged me. But I haven't quite got to that part yet. But I am grateful that I can learn and that I can understand myself better. And I'm grateful that doing this is helping me to learn and understand myself better, because I think I need to know and love myself in order to truly know and love someone else. And that would be the ultimate goal, to be able to feel the Savior's love, to love myself, and then to be able to share that love with other people. And that is what I'm working towards. And that is the point of doing these videos and writing my books and sharing my talents. And I think that's why God gave me these talents, because he knew that this is how I express myself, and this is how I can share and his love with other people, and hopefully bless other people's lives through my talents and my writing and maybe my speaking. I don't know how wonderful it is, but I try. So I hope this is helping someone, and I'm just grateful that I can do this. And I hope you have a great day full of gratitude. So thank you.